Pompeo receiving a pretty frosty reception. In fact, Xi Jinping didn't actually offer his presence.
That is right. Pompeo denied a meeting, apparently, with President Xi, seen as something of a snub by some watching the developments here on the ground in Beijing. This was part, of course, of Pompeo's Asian tour to try and shore up support for a denuclearization plan for North Korea. He'd been in Pyongyang, of course, meeting with Kim Jong-un. He then went to Seoul to debrief his South Korean counterparts, then came here to Beijing. Of course, China and the US do have a shared ambition in terms of the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, but that cooperation between the US and China on this issue, potentially the risks of that being undermined, highlighted by this meeting. As you say, more grist to the mill for those who see a potential edging towards some kind of Cold War scenario if this trade war between the US and China goes unchecked. The tensions really bubbling to the surface between this meeting between Wang Yi, the foreign minister, and Pompeo. And as you say, Wang Yi addressing or using the opportunity to hit back and push back against what he sees as these overtures by Washington to Taiwan, the South Korea or South China Sea issues, the territorial issues that China is concerned about, as well as trade, of course. And Wang Yi describing or saying that these tensions were casting a shadow over the US-China relationship, and Pompeo saying that there were deep disagreements between both sides. So, yes, tensions, certainly the diplomatic mask did slip. Both sides said they would continue to cooperate on the issue of North Korea. But clearly that is an area which is potentially at risk if these relations continue to sour.
And this meeting coming at a time when the Chinese markets came back from holiday to become the world's worst performers.
Yeah, the worst start to the month of October for about a decade. The CSI 300 closing yesterday down about 4.3%. We've got the terminal chart as well, I believe, of the FTSE China A50 index. You saw that. That's the large caps closing down about 5%. You saw, of course, that the foreign investors who'd been holding up much of the equities, or to some degree, they'd been buying into Chinese equities because of the valuation play over the last few months, sold off about $1.4 billion worth of Chinese equities, A shares, through that Hong Kong exchange yesterday. You've got concerns, of course, about the yuan. That dropped onshore by about 0.78%. You've got increasing views here from analysts and strategists potentially looking at whether or not China is going to remove or stop drawing a line in the sand at 6.9. We're looking at 7 as well, potentially, of course. So the fixing late today firmly in focus. So the economic data points, what's happening in the market as well, is likely to embolden, you would have thought, the Trump administration, given that President Trump does look at the equity markets as an indication of what he sees as strength on the US side.